Hey YouTube, what's up? This is Ben from the beaphotographer channel, and in this video we're going to be talking about the curves tool in Capture One Pro 20. This is such a strong tool that helps you edit the contrast and exposure of images and also helps you color grade. This is like an advanced version of the levels tool, I would say, and it is fantastic in Lightroom, Photoshop, and Capture One Pro 20, and a bunch of other photo editing softwares. So once you understand the basics and the why and how it works here, you'll be able to translate this into whatever software you might be using. Now, I do want to mention I've included a free download in the description below, which is one of my PowerPoints. This is Understanding Curves, and this is like a quick reference guide / cheat sheet for you to just be able to quickly reference when you're practicing this technique here. I want you to take a look at these files here, and if I reset them, that's what the images look like before curves and exposure adjustments, and then this is after curves. So you can see that we added a lot of style, we added a little bit of flair with the colors, and then we also added a good bit of contrast as well, just by using the curves tools. Let me start with this image of Michael. That's the one we're going to practice editing on, and then I will also include a file down below. It's a picture of me, and you can feel free to edit that and practice. So even if you haven't shot any images, even if you don't own a camera, you can try out this technique. Let's reset this image here. So I'm going to hit reset. You can see this is straight out of the camera. This was shot with a Canon 60D and the 24mm 2.8 pancake lens. Absolutely love that lens. I did a video review on it. Anyways, let's walk through the curves tool. And the first thing is, why is it diagonal? So you can see that it goes diagonally from the bottom left to the top right. In our background, we see the histogram of the image. And the reason it's like this is because the bottom left is absolute black. So you can see these numbers. So you have input and output. If I hit the bottom left corner, you can see that the input is 0, so that means the pixel is 0 brightness out of 255, and the output, what we're shown, is also 0. So you can see if I bring this up, that means 0, anything black is now showing at 45 brightness. If I bring it all the way up, that makes it white, right? So input is 0, output is 0, so you can't go lower and you can't go further left because 0 means pure black. You can't get darker than black. That doesn't exist. And then on the top right, you guessed it, that is pure white. So you can't go up higher because this is showing input 255, output 255. A white pixel shows up as white. If we brought that down, so white pixels are now 0, you can see input 255, anything less bright than 255 shows up as 0, right? And then when we bring the numbers back to normal, you'll see bottom left, pure black, top right is the brightest point, and that's why it's a diagonal line. So hopefully that makes sense. Now, the x-axis and the y-axis, so the up and down and the left and right. Think of it this way. Left and right is you are picking or choosing the brightness that it already is in the image, and up and down is you are making it that brightness. For instance, let's pick the white points. This is going to be an exaggeration. But if we take a look with the histogram here, we move our mouse on the image, you can see as I go to a brighter point, it's more in the top right. As I go to a darker point, it is more in the bottom left. So let's take the top right, for example. We're going to tap here, and then if we slide it up, you'll see we are making that brighter, right? So everything just got brighter. And if we went to the bottom left, we'll see that everything is getting darker, right? And what's cool is in Capture One, if you hit a wall on purpose with one of your points, then that will reset that point. So just really quick, let's say you have a bunch of points on your curves. If you want to delete one, you just take it and knock it into the wall, and it will remove. So you can do this into any of the 4 walls, and it's awesome. So how do we use this to our advantage to add contrast and change colors? Let's do it this way. We're going to create what's called the classic SCurve. So we're going to create multiple pins. Think of this as a string, right? So if we tap in the middle, we bring that up, you'll see the entire line moves. The shadows get brighter and the highlights get brighter. But we don't want that. So instead, we're going to create a point here in the midtones, a point here in the shadows, and a point here in the highlights. And now when I move the midtones, you'll see that the rest of the image isn't really affected much, right? It moves a tiny bit, but it's basically pinned into place. So to create an S-curve, what you want to do is make your shadows darker, and you can select where that starts. So I'm going to do it right about here. And then you can make your highlights brighter. So again, you can make just the brightest brights even brighter, or you can start down here and have more of a contrast. So this is a very strong S-curve. This is a little bit too much contrast for me. So I'm going to just do this very lightly like so. And now we can take a look. If we look at our before by holding Option and then this reset button, there was the image before. Here's the image after. You can see we have a nice range of tones. We have good contrast, and we still have a solid amount of light in the image. If we want to brighten this up, we can just grab our exposure slider, slide up, and I say that looks pretty awesome already. Let's take a look at our before. Let's take a look at our after. We have a nice punch of contrast going on. Let's say we wanted to either add some colors or remove colors. This is where the color channels come in really well. So there's a lot of red going on in this image, right? If we zoom in and we take a look at his neck and his chin area, there is some red going on in here. And so to show you how to control those, I'm actually going to make this image black and white. My next tip for you is to know your opposites. So here we are on the red channel, and the opposite of red is cyan. So if we take the red, let's say red in the shadows, and we go down, it's going to add a cyan type of tone to the image. If we go up, it will add red in the image. So going up, you're adding, going down, you are subtracting. That should be pretty simple to follow. The opposite of green is going to be magenta. So if we wanted to add green in the shadows, we simply slide up on the shadows area. If we wanted to subtract green or add magenta, we would do the opposite and slide down. You can see that adds a ton of magenta. And then on blue, you guessed it, the opposite of blue is going to be yellow. So if we go down, we'd be adding yellow. And if we go up, we would be adding blue. And so now when we add the saturation back to this image, it should be pretty clear how to remove the red. So there's a lot of red right here. And what's nice is when you move your mouse, it shows you on the histogram what part of the image is affected, right? So if I want the red right here, literally right there, we can see it on the histogram. It's kind of in the middle to the left a little bit. I can select a point right there. And then what's cool is I can either drag up or down with my mouse to add or remove red, or I can hold Shift and use the arrow keys. So if I want to add red in that area, you can see it's adding red in everything that's right about there. If I want to remove red, I can just tap down on my arrow keys, and you'll see it's now adding a little bit more cyan. So we're getting those kind of green tones right there. And so you can see already the before and after. That's before, that's after. We have some nice green tones here. Now, if we wanted more reds in the shadows, let's say, right? Like here, this is shadows. If we wanted more reds, we'd make another point and we'd bring the reds up, or we could bring the red down to get some more greens. And then in the highlights, let's say I want to add some blues in the highlights. What I can do is go to the blue channel and I can tap up here in the top right. That's going to be our highlights, make a point, and then I'll make a point in the center so the other channel areas don't move too much, so the midtones and the shadows don't move much. And I can just add blue in the highlights. So if we look at the bright of the car, right, the car is very bright, that's our highlights. We can add blue to that car, or we can remove blue from that car. And that is how we can color grade a little bit with the curves tool. We could just do another image really quickly. We can start with this M2 image here. We're going to do the basics. We're going to bring the exposure up just a tiny bit, and then we're going to take these shadows, bring the shadows down. We're going to take the highlights, bring the highlights up, and you can see just that quickly. There's before, there's after. We've added contrast to the image. So keep practicing that, and if you need to know the exact point on the image where you want to select, you can use this picker tool and then just click. Let's say right here we want to add brighter or darker, so we can just click there and it will create a point for us on the actual curve, right? So you can see as I'm clicking in different areas, it's making those points for us, and then we can drag those points up or down. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Let me know your requests for the future, and look out for the next tutorial where I'll show you how to get a faded look and how to control curves on the Luma curve, which is unique to Capture One Pro 20. Thanks for watching. Peace.